Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather to explore a topic that is both challenging and enlightening. The 6 signs of a stupid person. This is not a conversation meant to judge or condemn, but rather to inspire self-reflection and growth. Stupidity, as we will discuss, is not an inherent trait, but a pattern of behavior, a series of choices that lead to missed opportunities, broken relationships, and unfulfilled potential. It is not about intelligence or education, but about mindset and action. The signs we will examine are universal, touching on how we think, how we relate to others, and how we navigate life's challenges. By understanding these signs, we can identify areas in our own lives that need improvement and take steps toward becoming wiser, more intentional, and more purposeful individuals. Let us approach this topic with humility, recognizing that growth begins with awareness, and that every one of us has the power to rise above foolishness and embrace wisdom. A person who rejects wisdom and instruction is not just ignoring knowledge, they are actively resisting the very thing that could transform their life. Wisdom is available to everyone, yet not everyone embraces it. The refusal to accept correction and instruction is one of the clearest signs of a foolish person. They see advice as criticism, correction as an attack, and instruction as unnecessary interference. Instead of viewing knowledge as a tool for growth, they perceive it as a burden that limits their personal freedom. A wise person understands that learning never stops. No matter how much they know, they remain open to new insights, willing to adjust their perspective when presented with greater understanding. But the unwise see learning as an inconvenience. They believe they already have all the answers, even when their actions repeatedly lead to failure. Their pride blinds them, making them resistant to the very things that could elevate their life. Correction is an opportunity, not an insult. When someone points out a mistake, a wise person takes it as a chance to improve. But the unwise become defensive. They argue, justify, and resist, turning every lesson into a personal battle instead of a moment of growth. They would rather protect their ego than embrace wisdom. This mindset causes them to make the same mistakes repeatedly, blaming others or circumstances for their failures instead of addressing their own shortcomings. The rejection of instruction is often rooted in arrogance. A person who refuses to listen believes they are beyond correction. They despise authority, resist mentorship, and dismiss those who try to guide them. Instead of seeking out those who have walked the path before them, they insist on figuring everything out on their own, often at great cost. Life has a way of teaching lessons through pain when wisdom is ignored. The person who refuses instruction may feel independent, but they are actually setting themselves up for repeated struggle. They miss opportunities, delay success, and create unnecessary hardship simply because they are unwilling to humble themselves and learn from those who have greater experience and insight. A person who speaks without thinking does not recognize the power of their words. They talk more than they listen, often reacting impulsively without considering the impact of what they are saying. Instead of weighing their words carefully, they speak out of emotion, frustration, or ignorance, only to regret it later. Their tongue moves faster than their mind, and they fail to realize that words can build or destroy, heal a wound, open doors, or close them. A wise person understands that silence can be more powerful than speech. They pause before they respond, ensuring that their words carry meaning and purpose. But the unwise speak first and think later. They blurt out thoughts without processing them, assuming that whatever they feel in the moment must be spoken. This habit leads to unnecessary conflict, misunderstandings, and damaged relationships. Instead of using words to bring clarity, they create confusion. Instead of promoting peace, they ignite arguments. Words shape perception, A person who speaks without thinking reveals their lack of wisdom to those around them. They expose their ignorance, their immaturity, and their inability to control their emotions. They speak to impress rather than to express wisdom. They interrupt conversations, dominate discussions, and force their opinions without listening. In their haste to be heard, they forget the importance of understanding. Impulsive speech often comes from a place of insecurity. When a person feels the need to constantly talk, it is often because they fear being overlooked or undervalued. They believe that saying more makes them appear knowledgeable, when in reality it only exposes their lack of depth. A truly wise person does not need to prove themselves with excessive words. They allow their insight to speak for itself. Speaking without thinking also leads to broken trust. Words spoken in anger, in haste, or without wisdom cannot be taken back. They leave wounds that apologies cannot always heal. A person who does not control their tongue will eventually push people away, create unnecessary enemies, and sabotage their own success. Their inability to filter their speech becomes their greatest liability, preventing them from experiencing the fullness of wisdom, favor, and influence. A person who blames others for their failures refuses to take responsibility for their own life. Instead of looking inward and identifying their mistakes, they shift the blame to circumstances, people, or even fate. They see themselves as victims of situations beyond their control, never realizing that their greatest limitation is their own unwillingness to change. This mindset keeps them trapped in a cycle of repeated failure because they never address the root cause of their problems. Blaming others is a defense mechanism that protects the ego. It is easier to point fingers than to admit fault. When a person fails in business, they blame the economy. When a relationship falls apart, they blame the other person. When they miss an opportunity, they blame bad luck. They never ask themselves what they could have done differently, what lessons they need to learn, or how they can grow. This refusal to self-reflect keeps them stagnant, causing them to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. A person who constantly blames others also struggles with entitlement. They believe life owes them success, happiness, and opportunities without effort on their part. When they do not receive what they expect, they resent those who do. They look at successful people and assume they were just lucky, failing to recognize the discipline, sacrifice, and responsibility that led to their achievements. Instead of learning from others, they criticize them. Instead of working on their weaknesses, they complain about their disadvantages. Blaming others also damages relationships. No one wants to be around someone who never admits when they are wrong. It creates conflict in friendships, marriages, and workplaces because people grow tired of dealing with someone who refuses to acknowledge their own role in a situation. It builds resentment, destroys trust, and isolates the person who refuses to change. The greatest danger of blaming others is that it removes the power to improve. If a person believes that their failures are always someone else's fault, they will never take the necessary steps to grow. They remain in the same place year after year, watching others progress while they stay stuck, convinced that the world is against them instead of realizing that their greatest obstacle is themselves. A person who repeats the same mistakes is trapped in a cycle of failure, not because they lack opportunities, but because they refuse to learn from their past. They experience setbacks, face consequences, and even receive warnings, yet they continue making the same poor choices. Instead of adjusting their approach, they convince themselves that things will somehow be different this time, even though they have done nothing to change. This cycle of repetition keeps them stagnant, preventing them from reaching their true potential. Mistakes are meant to be teachers. Every failure carries a lesson. Every wrong turn holds wisdom, and every misstep provides an opportunity for growth. But when a person refuses to reflect, they continue walking in circles. They ignore the lessons life is trying to teach them, choosing to follow the same destructive patterns out of habit, pride, or ignorance. They see others progressing while they remain stuck, yet they do not recognize that their unwillingness to change is the reason. Some repeat mistakes because they are unwilling to accept correction. When wise counsel is given, they reject it. When someone warns them about a dangerous decision, they ignore it. When they suffer the consequences of their actions, they blame others instead of themselves. This refusal to listen leads them to fall into the same traps over and over again, creating unnecessary hardship in their life. Others repeat mistakes because they rely on emotion rather than wisdom. Instead of making decisions based on knowledge, they act on impulse. They choose comfort over discipline, pleasure over purpose, and convenience over responsibility. They allow their feelings to dictate their actions, never realizing that emotions are unreliable guides. When regret sets in, they promise to change. Yet, when faced with the same situation, they respond the same way, expecting a different outcome. Growth requires self-awareness. A person must be willing to evaluate their past, acknowledge their weaknesses, and make intentional changes. Without this, life becomes an endless cycle of disappointment. The greatest tragedy is not making mistakes, it is failing to learn from them. Until a person embraces wisdom, they will continue repeating history, watching their potential slip away with each missed opportunity. A person who surrounds themselves with ignorance is choosing to limit their own potential. The people we associate with have a powerful influence on our thinking, decisions, and future. When someone constantly keeps company with those who lack wisdom, ambition, and understanding, they absorb the same mindset, whether they realize it or not. Instead of being challenged to grow, they become comfortable in mediocrity. Instead of learning from those who are wiser, they remain stuck in the same level of thinking that leads to repeated failure. The company a person keeps determines the direction of their life. If they walk with the wise, they will gain wisdom. But if they surround themselves with foolishness, they will suffer the consequences of that environment. Ignorance is contagious. It spreads through conversations, habits, and shared perspectives. When a person constantly listens to unwise opinions, they begin to adopt those opinions as truth. When they engage in fruitless discussions, they begin to believe that knowledge has no value. Over time, they develop a mindset that rejects growth, resists correction, and justifies their limitations. A person who surrounds themselves with ignorance is often uncomfortable with accountability. They do not want to be challenged, corrected, or questioned. Instead of associating with those who can help them grow, they prefer to be around people who accept their excuses. They surround themselves with individuals who reinforce their bad decisions, who encourage their destructive habits, and who make them feel comfortable in their ignorance. This false sense of security keeps them from realizing how much they are missing. Ignorance is not just about a lack of knowledge, it is about a refusal to seek wisdom. A person who values growth will intentionally connect with those who inspire them, teach them, and challenge them. But someone who remains in ignorance chooses ease over elevation. They would rather fit in than stand out. They prefer familiarity over transformation. The result is a life that remains unchanged, dreams that go unfulfilled, and potential that is wasted. The environment they choose becomes the ceiling that limits their success, and until they change their surroundings, they will never rise to the level of their true capability. A person who values pleasure over purpose is living for the moment without considering the future. They prioritize what feels good now over what will bring lasting fulfillment. Instead of building discipline, they chase temporary satisfaction. Instead of making sacrifices for something greater, they indulge in whatever brings immediate comfort. They do not realize that a life driven by pleasure leads to regret, while a life built on purpose leads to legacy. Pleasure is deceptive because it provides instant gratification. It feels rewarding in the moment, but it never satisfies. The more a person seeks it, the more they need, yet it never truly fulfills them. They jump from one thrill to the next, constantly looking for something that can never be found in temporary experiences. They avoid hard work, ignore responsibility, and seek shortcuts because they believe life should always be easy. When difficulties arise, they escape instead of enduring, choosing comfort over character. A person who values pleasure over purpose avoids discipline. They struggle to commit to anything that requires patience and persistence. They start projects but never finish them. They make promises but fail to keep them. They have big dreams but never take the necessary steps to achieve them. Instead of investing in their growth, they invest in entertainment. Instead of developing skills, they waste time on distractions. They do not realize that success is not the result of desire alone. It is the product of consistent effort and sacrifice. Living for pleasure also weakens decision making. When choices are based on feelings rather than principles, a person becomes unstable. They make impulsive decisions that bring short-term happiness but long-term consequences. They spend money recklessly, neglect their responsibilities, and avoid anything that requires patience or endurance. Over time, this lifestyle leads to frustration because they see others advancing while they remain stuck. Purpose requires sacrifice, but it also brings fulfillment. It demands discipline, but it also creates lasting impact. A person who values pleasure will always live beneath their potential because they are unwilling to embrace the discomfort necessary for greatness. They trade their future for momentary comfort, not realizing that true success comes from perseverance, not indulgence. A person who rejects accountability refuses to take ownership of their actions, decisions, and the consequences that follow. They resist correction, avoid responsibility, and blame others for their mistakes. Instead of viewing accountability as a tool for growth, they see it as a threat to their independence. They want freedom without responsibility, success without discipline, and respect without integrity. This mindset keeps them from maturing because true growth only happens when a person is willing to be held accountable. Accountability is not a limitation, it is a safeguard. It protects a person from making unnecessary mistakes and keeps them aligned with their goals. But when someone rejects accountability, they isolate themselves from wise counsel. They avoid mentors, dismiss feedback, and surround themselves with people who will not challenge them. They would rather live in the illusion of self-sufficiency than admit they need guidance. This pride leads to repeated failure because they refuse to listen to those who have greater experience and wisdom. A person who resists accountability often struggles with excuses. Instead of admitting when they are wrong, they justify their actions. They downplay their mistakes, shift blame, and find reasons why they should not be held responsible. When faced with correction, they become defensive, seeing every attempt to guide them as an attack. This resistance creates a pattern of stagnation where the same problems keep occurring because they refuse to address the root cause. Without accountability, a person lacks discipline. They make impulsive choices, break commitments, and fail to follow through on their words. Since no one is holding them to a higher standard, they remain in a cycle of inconsistency. Their relationships suffer because people cannot trust them to be reliable. Their progress is slow because they have no one to challenge them to do better. The absence of accountability leads to self-deception. A person begins to believe their own excuses, convincing themselves that their failures are due to bad luck rather than poor choices. They miss opportunities, damage their reputation, and limit their potential simply because they are unwilling to be corrected. until they embrace accountability, they will continue to sabotage their own success without even realizing it. The refusal to embrace wisdom, take responsibility, or be accountable ultimately leads to a life of stagnation, frustration, and missed opportunities. Each of these traits rejecting wisdom, speaking without thought, blaming others, repeating mistakes, surrounding oneself with ignorance, valuing pleasure over purpose, and avoiding accountability keeps a person trapped in a cycle of mediocrity. Success and growth are not byproducts of indulgence, pride, or avoidance, but of discipline, humility, and a willingness to learn from both triumphs and failures. If we desire to elevate our lives, we must confront these tendencies and choose to act with wisdom, embrace correction, and remain accountable to the path that leads to greatness. Only through these actions can we break free from the chains of foolishness and truly unlock our potential. In life, there are those who constantly strive for growth, pushing themselves to become better, wiser, and stronger. Yet, there are others who remain stuck, trapped by their own foolishness. The traits of a foolish person are easy to recognize. They reject wisdom, blame others for their failures, repeat the same mistakes, and avoid accountability. They seek pleasure over purpose and surround themselves with ignorance, choosing comfort over growth. These tendencies prevent them from realizing their full potential and achieving lasting success. This speech aims to expose the signs of a foolish life and encourage those who are willing to break free from these self-imposed limitations. True success comes not from avoiding challenges or resisting growth, but from embracing wisdom, accountability, and a disciplined mindset. It is time to recognize the patterns that hold us back and choose the path that leads to greatness. Hello everyone, and welcome back. I am so grateful you have joined me today, and I can't wait to dive into something that has the power to change your life. A woman of experience, wisdom, and grace does not long for fleeting gestures. She desires meaningful connections. She is not impressed by surface level interactions, but seeks a touch that reaches beyond the physical. She understands that real love is not just about what is seen, but about what is felt, what is understood, and what is nurtured. To touch her is to first reach her mind. She is drawn to a man who speaks with wisdom, who stimulates her thoughts, who engages her in deep conversations. She does not need flattery, for she sees through empty words. Instead, she craves someone who listens, who values her opinions, and who respects the knowledge she carries. When her mind is touched, she feels alive, seen, and valued. Beyond her mind, she longs for her heart to be touched, not with grand gestures, but with sincerity. She desires kindness, empathy, and a love that is patient and consistent. She has endured seasons of life, and through them, she has learned that love is not in words alone, but in actions that speak when words fail. A woman flourishes when she is loved deeply, when she is understood, and when she is cherished, not just for what she gives, but for who she is. She finds comfort in the touch of her hands, not just physically, but emotionally. Holding her hand is not about romance a la nit, is a statement of presence, of commitment. It tells her she is not alone in the journey of life. A simple, gentle touch reassures her that she is treasured. In that moment, she knows she is cared for, not as an afterthought, but as a priority. Her face tells a story of joy, of sorrow, of victories, and of lessons learned. A tender touch on her cheek, a soft caress, or a kiss on the forehead is more than affection. It is reverence. It acknowledges all that she has been through and honors the beauty of her soul. When a woman is touched with respect and admiration, she glows not because of vanity, but because she feels valued beyond the surface. She listens, not just with her ears, but with her spirit. Words of affirmation breathe life into her. She wants to hear that she is appreciated, that she is still captivating, that her presence makes a difference. She does not need empty praise, but she treasures words that come from the heart. Encouragement is a gift, and when given genuinely, it becomes a source of strength that lifts her beyond her doubts. But above all, she desires a touch that reaches her soul. She seeks a connection that transcends the physical, one that is rooted in faith, purpose, and shared values. A woman who walks with wisdom is drawn to a heart that seeks the same truth she does. She flourishes in an environment where her spirit is nourished, where she is not just loved, but spiritually aligned with the one she walks with. And finally, she desires time, because time is love in action. She does not chase wealth or extravagance. She seeks presence. A woman feels most deeply touched when she knows that she is worth undivided attention, not in rushed conversations or distracted moments, but in the quiet, intentional presence of someone who values every second with her. To touch a woman is not just to reach for her physically, it is to know her, to honor her, to cherish her in ways that make her feel truly seen. And when she is touched in the right places, her mind, her heart, her hands, her face, her ears, her soul, and her time, she blossoms into the fullness of who she was always meant to be. A woman who has lived, learned, and grown through the seasons of life desires more than shallow conversations and fleeting interactions. She is drawn to depth, to substance, to a mind that challenges her, inspires her, and speaks to her soul. She does not need constant entertainment, nor does she seek validation through empty words. What she desires is intellectual intimacy, the kind of connection that fuels her curiosity, expands her perspective, and makes her feel alive. She values a man who can engage her in meaningful dialogue, someone who understands that words are not just sounds, but bridges that connect hearts and minds. She is intrigued by a mind that is well nourished, one that does not merely recite facts, but contemplates, reflects, and seeks wisdom. She does not need someone who agrees with her every thought, but she appreciates someone who listens, who respects her insights, and who offers perspectives that challenge her to think beyond her own experiences. She longs for a presence that is both emotionally intelligent and intellectually stimulating. A conversation that makes her pause and reflect is far more valuable to her than mere small talk. She admires a mind that is disciplined, a spirit that is eager to learn, and a heart that seeks understanding. She finds deep joy in discussing ideas, unraveling mysteries, and engaging in thought-provoking exchanges that enrich her journey. A woman like this does not fall for charm alone. She falls for wisdom. She is captivated by authenticity, drawn to someone who speaks with conviction, and moved by a heart that understands the power of words. The way to touch her mind is not through arrogance, but through humility, a willingness to explore the depths of knowledge, to share thoughts with openness, and to meet her in a space where minds connect beyond the surface. A woman's heart is not won by grand gestures or fleeting displays of affection. It is won through consistency, understanding, and emotional security. She does not seek perfection, but sincerity. She longs for a connection that feels safe, a presence that reassures her that she is loved not just for what she gives, but for who she is. Her heart desires a space where she can be vulnerable without fear, where she can express her emotions without judgment, and where she is valued beyond what the world sees. She is not moved by mere words. She watches actions, consistency, and the quiet moments that speak louder than any declaration. She notices how someone responds to her joys, her fears, and her struggles. She looks for patience in moments of weakness, for kindness in times of difficulty, and for someone who stands with her not only when it is easy, but when life demands endurance. She has seen enough to know that love is not always about excitement. It is about depth, about trust, about knowing that the person beside her will not leave when storms arise. She craves an emotional connection that runs deep, one that sees beyond the surface and reaches the core of who she is. She needs reassurance that her feelings matter, that her thoughts are heard, that her presence is cherished. She is not looking for someone to fix her, but for someone who understands her, who respects the emotions that make her human, and who does not see her depth as a burden, but as a treasure. She thrives in an environment where love is not just said, but shown, where her heart is not just pursued, but protected, where she is not just admired, but truly understood. A woman's hands tell the story of her life, of the burdens she has carried, the love she has given, and the strength she has displayed in moments when no one was watching. Her hands have held on to dreams, wiped away tears, and worked tirelessly to create a life of meaning. She does not simply want her hands to be touched. She wants them to be held with intention, with respect, with a silent understanding of all that they have endured. She feels the deepest connection when someone reaches for her hand, not out of routine, but out of a genuine desire to reassure her that she is not alone. A simple touch can speak volumes, expressing what words often cannot. A gentle grasp tells her that she is safe, that she is supported, that she has someone who walks beside her, not just in moments of celebration, but in times of struggle. The way her hands are held reflects the way her heart is treated, either with care or with neglect. Her hands crave warmth, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional and spiritual connection that a sincere touch brings. A firm yet tender hold communicates presence, devotion, and commitment. It tells her that she is not just desired, but cherished, that she is not just someone to be with, but someone to be honored. She recognizes love in the smallest gestures, the way fingers intertwine, the way a thumb gently brushes against her skin, the way her hand is pulled close in moments of uncertainty. She finds comfort in a touch that does not demand, but gives, that does not rush, but lingers. In that simple, quiet act of holding hands, she feels the depth of a bond that words could never fully express. A woman's face is more than just a reflection in the mirror. It is a canvas of her experiences, her emotions, and the life she has lived. Every line, every expression, every glance tells a story. Her face has radiated joy, endured pain, expressed love, and held back tears in moments when the world was unaware. She does not desire admiration based solely on physical beauty. She longs for a gaze that sees beyond the surface, one that cherishes the soul behind the features. She notices when someone looks at her with genuine appreciation, when their eyes do not just scan her appearance, but truly take her in with admiration, respect, and love. She feels deeply when a gentle touch brushes against her cheek, not as a fleeting act of affection, but as an acknowledgement of who she is. A tender stroke across her face, a soft kiss on the forehead, or the simple act of tucking a strand of hair behind her ear can communicate more than 1,000 words. She wants her face to be touched with reverence, not as an object of fleeting attraction, but as a treasure that holds memories, wisdom, and depth. She finds reassurance in the small, subtle gestures that convey a deep emotional connection. The way someone caresses her face in a moment of stillness, the way their hand lingers for just a second longer, the way they pause to look at her before speaking it, all makes her feel seen, valued, and cherished. Her face carries the expressions of the life she has lived. And when she is touched with care, she feels honored. She recognizes love not just in words, but in the way someone looks at her, the way they hold her face, as if it is something sacred, something worth protecting, something deeply, undeniably beautiful. A woman's ears are not just for hearing sounds. They are the gateway to her heart and mind. She listens not only with her ears, but with her soul, absorbing the words spoken to her and interpreting the emotions behind them. She craves words that uplift, that affirm, that remind her of her worth. She has heard enough noise in life, empty promises, careless remarks, and voices that do not truly see her. What she longs for is a voice that speaks with sincerity, with wisdom, with love. She listens deeply, not just to what is said, but to how it is said. The tone, the intention, the pauses in between these tell her more than words alone. She is moved by gentle whispers of encouragement, by affirmations that remind her she is loved, by words that bring her peace in moments of uncertainty. She finds strength in a voice that reassures her, that reminds her she is capable, beautiful, and deserving of all the good things life has to offer. She treasures the moments when someone speaks life into her, when their words are not just spoken, but felt. A simple, "I appreciate you," "I believe in you," or "you are not alone," resonates deeply within her. She cherishes conversations that go beyond the superficial, ones that nourish her spirit and challenge her to grow. She does not need flattery, nor does she desire mere compliments. She seeks authenticity in every word spoken to her. She remembers the words that made her feel seen, the voice that brought her comfort, the sentences that stayed with her long after they were spoken. She understands that words hold power. They can heal or wound, build or break. And when she hears words that honor her, that lift her, that remind her of her value, she listens with her heart wide open. A woman's soul is the deepest part of her being, the place where her dreams, fears, and faith reside. It is not something that can be touched with mere gestures or words. It requires a connection beyond the physical, beyond the surface. She longs for someone who understands that true intimacy is not just about being near her, but about knowing her, truly seeing her for who she is when the world is quiet, when the masks are off, when her spirit speaks louder than her voice. She is drawn to a presence that nurtures her soul, that aligns with her values, that speaks to the core of who she was created to be. She does not seek someone to complete her, for she knows she is already whole. Instead, she desires a connection that adds to her, that inspires her, that brings her closer to purpose, to peace, to fulfillment. She flourishes in an environment where she is not just loved, but understood, where her spirit is not just accepted, but embraced. She recognizes depth when she feels it. She is moved by moments of stillness, by conversations that stir something within her, by a presence that feels like home. She finds comfort in someone who prays with her, who encourages her to grow, who speaks words that do not just flatter her ears, but nourish her soul. She knows that true connection is not about perfection, but about alignment of vision, of purpose, of faith. She treasures the rare moments where she feels seen beyond her actions, beyond her roles, beyond what the world expects of her. Her soul desires a touch that brings peace, that brings clarity, that reminds her she is exactly where she is meant to be, growing, evolving, becoming. A woman values her time because she understands its worth. She has learned through experience, that time is the one thing she can never get back. So she does not waste it on what does not nourish her soul. She is not impressed by fleeting attention or distracted conversations. She cherishes presence, intentionality, and the effort someone makes to truly be with her. She does not measure love in extravagant gifts or elaborate gestures, but in the moments where she feels prioritized, where she knows her time is valued just as much as she values it herself. She notices the difference between someone who is simply around her and someone who is truly present. She does not want half-hearted attention, where someone listens but does not hear, looks but does not see. She wants quality over quantity, depth over obligation. A meaningful hour spent in deep conversation, in laughter, in shared silence, is more precious to her than days filled with absent-minded interactions. She longs for a presence that is undistracted, that is fully engaged, that makes her feel like she is the most important person in that moment. She treasures time given with sincerity. When someone makes time for her despite a busy schedule, when they remember the little details she shared, when they prioritize her not because they have to, but because they want to, these are the moments that stay with her. She does not demand time. She simply recognizes when it is given freely, when it is shared with meaning, when it reflects care and respect. She has outgrown relationships that drain her energy and situations that make her feel unseen. She values those who make space for her, who do not rush through moments with her, who understand that time spent together is not about convenience, but about connection. A woman who has lived, loved, and learned through the years does not seek fleeting affection or surface-level attention. She desires something deeper, something meaningful, something intentional, something that speaks to her mind, her heart, her hands, her face, her ears, her soul, and her time. She is not impressed by charm alone, nor is she moved by words that lack action. What she longs for is presence, respect, and a connection that honors the depth of who she is. To touch a woman in the places that matter most is to understand that she is not just a body to be admired, but a soul to be cherished. It is to engage her thoughts, nurture her emotions, and hold space for her essence. It is to listen with intent, to see beyond the surface, to honor her journey, and to value her presence. She knows her worth, and she no longer gives her energy to anything that diminishes it. The rarest connection is one that does not just touch the skin, but reaches the heart. It is not found in grand gestures, but in consistent, thoughtful, and sincere moments. It is in the way she is heard, the way she is seen, the way she is held, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. A woman who has grown into a strength and wisdom will not settle for less than this, because she understands that real love, real presence, and real connection are not just desired, they are deserved. Hello everyone, and welcome back. I'm so grateful you have joined me today, and I can't wait to dive into something that has the power to change your life. There are moments in life when the weight of pain feels unbearable. The kind of pain that doesn't just touch your emotions, but shakes the very foundation of your soul. Heartbreak is real, it is raw, it is deep. But there is a truth greater than your pain. God can handle your broken heart. You may feel abandoned, betrayed, or forgotten, but I want to remind you, God is not afraid of your brokenness. He is not overwhelmed by your tears, and he does not run away when life shatters you into pieces. He is the healer, the mender, the restorer. The world may tell you that once something is broken, it loses its value, but in the hands of God, broken things become the foundation for something greater. Pain is not permanent. It may feel endless, but it is only a season. And just like every season changes, this too shall pass. The enemy wants you to believe that your heartbreak is the end of your story, but God says it is only a chapter. The greatest stories are written in ink that was once tears. The greatest victories are born from the deepest wounds. You may feel like your heart is shattered into pieces too small to be restored, but let me tell you, God does not need perfection to do his work. He takes the broken, the wounded, the lost, and he builds something beautiful. If you place your pain in his hands, he will turn it into purpose. What was meant to destroy you will become the very thing that strengthens you. Temptation is dangerous. When pain comes, the temptation is to withdraw, to close your heart, to build walls. But walls don't just keep pain out, they also keep healing out. When you shut yourself off from God, you shut yourself off from the one who can heal you. Don't let your brokenness push you away from the presence of the one who can restore you. He is closest to the brokenhearted. He hears your cries even when you have no words left to pray. Your broken heart is not a burden to God. He loves you in your weakness. He loves you in your doubt. He loves you when you are struggling to believe. You don't have to fix yourself before coming to him. Come as you are, and he will do the fixing. Healing is not about pretending you are strong. It's about surrendering your weakness to the one who is. Your heart is not a stone, it is a seed. It may feel crushed, but even a crushed seed can produce life when placed in the right soil. What looks like the end is often the beginning. What feels like destruction is often preparation. Sometimes God allows breaking because he knows what will come after. It is far greater than what was before. Pain may feel permanent when you're in the middle of it. It wraps itself around your heart, making you believe that the weight will never lift, that the ache will never fade. But emotions are like waves. They rise, they crash, and eventually they recede. What seems unbearable today will not hold the same power tomorrow. Pain is a season, not a life sentence. When a storm hits, it feels endless. The skies darken, the winds howl, and the rain beats down relentlessly. But no storm lasts forever. The clouds will part and the sun will shine again. In the same way, the pain that feels overwhelming now will not last. It is a process, not a prison. Just because it hurts today does not mean it will hurt forever. Pain has a way of convincing you that this is the end, that you will never laugh again, that joy will never return. But look at history. Look at your own life. There were moments before when you thought you wouldn't make it, yet here you are. The wounds that once felt impossible to heal have become scars, reminders of battles you've won. Nothing in life is stagnant. Just as the body naturally heals a cut, the heart too is designed to recover. It may take time, but healing is inevitable. Every broken heart, every wounded soul, every shattered dream carries within it the potential for renewal. Pain may linger, but it will not define you. The depth of your sorrow today does not determine the height of your joy tomorrow. Time moves forward, and so will you. When something is broken, the world often discards it. People throw away what they no longer find useful, what seems too damaged to repair. But God does not operate like the world. He specializes in restoration. He does not see brokenness as an end, but as an opportunity to create something even greater. What others reject, he redeems. What seems beyond repair, he rebuilds. A broken heart, a shattered dream, a life that feels like it has fallen apart, these are not obstacles for God. They are invitations for him to do his greatest work. He takes what is wounded and makes it whole. He takes what is lost and brings it back to purpose. There is no damage too deep, no failure too great, no pain too heavy that he cannot restore. Think of a master artist working on a masterpiece. If the canvas is torn, he does not throw it away. Instead, he mends it, reworks it, and turns it into something even more beautiful. In the same way, God does not discard you because of your brokenness. He does not look at the pieces of your life and see something worthless. He sees potential. He sees a future. He sees a story of redemption waiting to be told. Restoration is not about returning to what was, it is about becoming something even greater. What was lost can be replaced with something better. What was broken can become stronger than before. God does not simply put the pieces back together, He transforms them. He creates beauty from ashes, joy from mourning, and strength from weakness. Whatever has been taken from you, whatever has been damaged, know this: in the hands of God, restoration is not just possible, it is inevitable. Pain is never without meaning. Every wound, every scar, every heartbreak carries a lesson, a purpose, a transformation waiting to unfold. It may not make sense in the moment, but nothing in life happens without reason. The wounds you carry are not just marks of suffering, they are evidence of survival, proof that you have endured what was meant to break you. A wound is not just an injury, it is a doorway to growth. It stretches you, forces you to dig deeper, to find strength you never knew you had. Growth does not come from comfort. It comes from struggle, from pressure, from being pushed beyond what feels bearable. The deepest pain often produces the greatest wisdom. Those who have been broken and rebuilt understand life in ways others never will. They carry an empathy, a resilience, a depth that cannot be taught, only experienced. A wound in the right hands can become a tool. God does not waste pain. What hurts you can be the very thing that helps someone else. The lessons you learn in your darkest moments can become the light that guides another. The suffering you endure today may be the strength someone else needs tomorrow. No great leader, no great teacher, no great healer has ever walked through life without wounds. It is through brokenness that compassion is born. It is through hardship that character is refined. The purpose of a wound is not to destroy you, but to shape you. A cut in the hands of a surgeon is not an injury, it is a step toward healing. The same is true for the wounds in your life. What was meant to harm you in the hands of God can become the very thing that elevates you. When pain enters your life, the first instinct is often to withdraw, to shut down, build walls, and keep people at a distance. Isolation feels like protection. It feels like the safest way to avoid further hurt. But what seems like a refuge can quickly become a prison. The longer you stay in isolation, the more you feed the lie that no one understands, that no one cares, that healing is impossible. Pain thrives in silence. It grows in the darkness of loneliness, where there is no truth to challenge it. When you isolate yourself, you give your wounds the power to define you. You replay the hurt, relive the betrayal, and reinforce the belief that you are alone. But you were never meant to heal alone. Healing happens in connection. Restoration comes when you bring your brokenness into the presence of God and into the presence of those who can lift you up. God never created people to function in isolation. Even from the beginning, He declared that it was not good for man to be alone. Community is not just a social construct, it is a divine design. There is strength in togetherness, comfort in shared burdens, and wisdom in godly counsel. The enemy knows this, which is why his strategy is always to separate, to divide, to keep you hidden in your pain. Because an isolated heart is a vulnerable heart. The pain you carry may make you want to retreat, but the very thing you are running from connection is the key to your healing. You don't have to share your wounds with everyone, but you must not lock them away. Let trusted people speak life into you. Let God's presence remind you that you are never alone. Isolation magnifies pain, but connection leads to restoration. Love is often measured by performance in this world. People love when you are strong, when you have it all together, when you meet their expectations. But the love of God is different. It does not waver when you fall. It does not diminish when you fail. It does not withdraw when you are broken. God loves you not because of what you do, but because of who He is. And His love is never stronger than when you are at your weakest. Weakness does not repel God, it draws Him closer. He is not like people who may walk away when you struggle. He does not get tired of your battles, nor does He abandon you when life overwhelms you. When you are at your lowest, He is at His nearest. When you are too weak to stand, He carries you. When you have no words left to pray, He hears the silent cries of your heart. He does not love you less when you are broken. In fact, He draws near to the brokenhearted. The world teaches you to hide your weakness, to mask your struggles, to pretend you are okay even when you are not. But God never asked for perfection. He asked for surrender. He wants you to come to Him as you are, not as you think you should be. Weakness is not a disqualification, it is an invitation. An invitation to experience His strength, His grace, His power working in you. Your lowest moment is not your identity. Your failures do not define you. His love does. And that love does not fluctuate with your emotions, your mistakes, or your struggles. You may feel unworthy, but His love does not depend on your worthiness. It is constant, unshaken, and everlasting even in your weakest state. Your heart is not made of stone. It was never meant to be hardened, cold, or unmovable. It is a seed alive, capable of growth, filled with potential. A stone remains the same no matter what surrounds it. It does not change, does not bend, does not produce life. But a seed, even when buried in darkness, holds the power to break through, to rise, to bring forth something new. Pain can make you believe that hardening your heart is the only way to survive. Disappointments, betrayals, and losses push you to shut yourself off, to stop feeling, to become unbreakable. But a hardened heart is not a strong heart. A heart that refuses to feel, that refuses to trust, that refuses to love is not protected, it is imprisoned. It is only in remaining soft, in remaining open, that growth can happen. A seed must be buried before it can grow. It must go through seasons of darkness, of uncertainty, of transformation beneath the surface before its potential is revealed. Your heart is the same. What feels like burial is not the end, it is preparation. What seems like loss is making way for something greater. God did not design your heart to remain wounded, stuck in pain. He designed it to heal, to grow, to love again. No matter how broken, how bruised, how weary your heart feels, it still carries the ability to rise. A seed does not need perfect conditions to grow, only the right soil. And when you place your heart in the hands of God, no pain, no disappointment, no hardship can stop what He is preparing to bring forth in you. Pain has a way of making everything feel small, your hope, your vision, your belief in the future. When you are in the middle of suffering, it consumes your thoughts, your emotions, and your perspective. It becomes easy to believe that your pain is the biggest thing in your life, that nothing beyond it exists. But no matter how deep your hurt runs, God's plan for your life is deeper. No matter how heavy your burden feels, His purpose for you is greater. Pain is real, but it is not the final chapter. It is a page in the story, a moment in time, not the whole picture. You may not understand why certain things happen, why you had to go through heartbreak, loss, or disappointment. But just because you cannot see the purpose now does not mean there isn't one. God sees what you cannot see. He knows what is being built in the middle of your brokenness. His plan is not to leave you in pain, but to lead you through it. Many of the greatest transformations come from moments of suffering. A seed must break before it can grow. A diamond must endure pressure before it shines. Gold must go through fire before its impurities are removed. Your pain is not meaningless, it is a process, a preparation. What feels like the end is often a beginning. What looks like destruction is often the foundation for something greater. God's plan is not small, and it is not limited by what you have lost. If He allowed you to go through pain, it is because there is something beyond it that He is preparing you for. You may not see it yet, but one day you will look back and realize that even in your deepest sorrow, His hand was guiding you towards something greater. Your broken heart is not the end of your story. Pain may feel overwhelming, but it is not permanent. The wounds you carry have purpose, and what was meant to destroy you can become the very thing that strengthens you. God does not waste suffering, He transforms it. He takes what is shattered and builds something greater. He takes what is lost and replaces it with something better. You are not forgotten. You are not beyond repair. No matter how deep your hurt, how heavy your sorrow, or how uncertain your future feels, God is bigger than it all. His love is unshaken by your weakness. His power is not limited by your pain. If you place your heart in His hands, He will not just heal you, He will restore you, renew you, and lead you into something far greater than what you have lost. Do not let pain harden your heart. Do not let fear isolate you. Do not let sorrow convince you that God has abandoned you. He is near. He is working. And even in this moment, He is preparing something beyond what you can imagine. Trust Him. Your brokenness is not the end, it is the beginning of something beautiful.